Today is October 4th. Welcome on into Daily Cards Live here on ClavesOnline.com. I'm Joe Roderick, joined alongside by Bob Ramsey, brought to you each and every day by Royal Banks of Missouri. And Rammer, we are on to the AL and the NLDS in the Major League playoffs. But before we get to the 8 teams that remain, 2 pieces of news to pass along today. One local with the Cardinals, as it was announced, Turner Ward will not be brought back in 2025 as the Cardinals hitting coach. Wasn't fired. It was the end of his contract, which just so happened to coincide with the end of the contract for Paul Goldschmidt. The two of them pretty much linked at the hip during his tenure here in St. Louis. So it's a move that makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, I guess so. It'll be interesting to see. I'll be honest. I don't know what the hitting philosophy is, how they teach it, why they teach it. We've seen the confusion, in particular with Walker, back and forth over the last couple of years. Is that on Turner Ward? Is that on the organizational theory? It's all up in the air. But typically when something goes wrong in an organization, the coach that's so-called in charge of it is the one that gets the short haircut.
Yeah, this now makes now I'm drawing a complete blank. I was just talking about it earlier today. The hitting coach prior to Turner Ward that was kind of given the keys to the system. I'm drawing a complete blank on the guy's name right now. But Turner Ward has not been the head hitting coach for that long here with the Cardinals. So it's a change now. They have said Brandon Allen is going to stay with the organization, but they did not name a new hitting coach yet for the Cardinals. I don't know how that process is going to play out over the next couple years, or the next couple of weeks or months, I should say.
No, I have no idea.
Right. The other big news that came out of baseball yesterday, kind of a shock. Here we are. We're sitting here. We're watching the Brewers and Mets have just a classic game in the 9th inning. That game ends. Mets advance. And then, really, it seemed almost simultaneous to the end of the wild card round. The word comes out that Terry Francona is retiring from his 1-year retirement, staying in the state of Ohio, and he is going to be the manager of the Cincinnati Reds. Just an absolute win for the Reds to be able to go get Tito out of retirement.
Yeah, I'm a huge Francona fan. When I was a kid, his dad was one of my favorite players. He is a marvelous manager. In my view, the Cardinals messed up by not hiring him when they had the opportunity previously. And I think by not doing that, it told you a lot about the organization. And whether it's a stated position or it's understood or it's just kind of the way things naturally fall within the organization, I don't believe the Cardinals want, at this point in time, a strong manager who will tell the owner and tell the president and tell the GM and tell everybody else what he thinks and what he's going to do and why he's going to do it. And I'm running the ball club and blah, blah, blah. I think for many organizations, not just the Cardinals, for many organizations, plural, those days are gone.
I wasn't, I was very, very early in my career back in 2011, 2012, when Tony La Russa retired from managing the Cardinals, and they started that search. And Rammer, I know you were right in the middle of all kinds of things back then as well. I remember, I know talking to people over the years that were kind of heavily involved with that one way or another, kind of said that Terry Francona never should have been allowed to leave St. Louis after he was brought in for that interview. And that he should have been given the job, and that letting him, just the fact that they let him leave the airport, head to the airport afterwards was a huge mistake on the organization's part.
Sometimes you get so myopic as an organization, a company, whatever. Okay, okay, we did our interview. Thank you very much. And we'll get back to you, instead of looking around the room and going, this is the guy we want. Don't let that plane take off,
Yep.
And I'm without being in the interview room, you don't know what was said or what they thought about it. But I can't imagine that you'd talk to this guy and say, no, not for our ball club. I can't imagine what he could have said to turn you off.
1 year almost to the day of retiring from the Cleveland Guardians, citing health issues, but will now go down to Cincinnati, a very young, talented team that just had not been able to turn the corner under David Bell the last few years. And a kind of a sign from ownership, who over the years ownership kind of said, hey, it's, what, the fans, it's their fault for not showing up and us not spending money, or the kind of laying it out on, blaming everybody else except themselves. And now I would say this is a sign to them saying, hey, you know what, we have a manager that has won a World Series, that has managed in multiple World Series. Now we're going for it. We want to turn these young guys into winners, into contenders, and maybe looking at the National League Central as a whole, saying this is ours to win. This is this is ours for the taking, and we can go get it.
Yes, but you still have to have players.
Yeah.
So let's see what they do to add to what they have.
Reports Bob Nightingale saying that Sonny Gray is on their radar for the from the Cardinals. So that's a move that maybe makes a little more sense if
I'm him, I don't want to pitch in that ballpark.
And not many do. Yeah, that's you can manage a roster up and down. You can't manage the Great American Ballpark, and so
yeah. Tito comes out and he says, "You feel?" He goes, "Is your arm okay?" And he goes, "Yeah, but my neck is killing me."
That is, but that is one big domino to fall this offseason. Still quite a few managerial openings out there. Mariners, White Sox, Marlins, to name a few out there around baseball this offseason. But let's talk about the teams that are still playing. Rammer, the baseball playoffs take a day off today, which is why Terry Francona was able to be named the manager of the Cincinnati Reds. Do that in between series on a day off. Tomorrow at 12:08, the ALDS and NLDS will get underway with the Tigers against Terry Francona's former team, the Cleveland Guardians. Tigers doing it. The stories that keep coming out of this Detroit bunch, the payroll that they went with their 26-man roster. Saw a stat earlier today listing like the 7 highest paid players on the Tigers team. None of them playing in this series. Half of them not even with the team right now. This is just one of those stories of a nitty-gritty bunch that is getting the job done, and they knocked off the big evil empire of the Houston Astros in round 1.
And it'll be interesting to see, because when you match up rosters, Cleveland's much better.
Yes.
Especially the top half of their offensive lineup, top 6 even maybe. Detroit's pitching, they're gonna have their hands full. They better be as good as they have been, and it's not going to be easy against Cleveland. I think you've got to favor Cleveland going in, and I like watching the Indians play. They're a fun team to watch, but I always like underdogs. I think the Tigers will be heavy underdogs. So this will be a good one.
I will say, just a note from that Tigers-Astros game, Rammer, you have coached a lot of youth sports over the years, and you have seen kids make mistakes at just levels that you look at and you go, what in the world are they doing? That sequence in, what was it, the 7th or 8th inning? I think it was the 7th inning of game 2 the other day for the Tigers, where it was runners on first and second, the sacrifice bunt that leads to a hit, and then the ground ball to first that drawing a blank on the first baseman's name for the Tigers, makes just an outstanding play on, dives, throws it from his knees.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
It's Spencer Torkelson. dives and makes the play. Jake Rogers can't handle the ball in the dirt. And then the easy, lazy pop fly into foul territory in right field. I mean, for the Tigers to come back after that, and you're just thinking, God, here the wheels are falling off. It's a young team. They're going to fall off. Oh, the veterans are going to come get them. Nope, Tigers came right back and put up some runs on one of the best relievers in all of baseball in Josh Hader. So it's just one of those Cinderella stories.
So far. And again, it's going to be a challenge against the Indians. But, again, the Guardians will be heavily favored, but it'll be fun seeing if the Tigers can hang. If they can pitch and win some low-scoring games, that's the way they've got to do it, I think. It's the way it looks on paper.
Highest played Detroit Tigers. Javier Baez, $25 million a year, season-ending injury. Kenta Maeda, $14 million a year, left off the playoff roster. Jack retired. Mark Canha traded. Shelby Miller released. Andrew Chafin traded. Those are the top 7 highest played Tigers, none of which will have a part in this postseason for the team. Just absolutely wild stat for that. Next series, the Mets, again, another team that will not die. The Mets against the Phillies. And you know what? With the Mets starting fights with the Brewers in the first round of the playoffs, I cannot imagine what's going to happen in this between the Mets and the Phillies. Two teams that already don't like each other. There might actually be a fight in a parking lot by the end of this series between two opposing players.
Well, again, this is almost like the Tigers Guardians to me, in that the Phillies, in my view, clearly have a better roster, but the Mets are hot right now. They've had an influx of some young blood late in the year. It's funny. Their best player, Lindor, started out the season horribly. In fact, it looked like a continuation of the previous 2 years. He was hitting about 200 6 weeks into the season. And then starting on May 19th, Lindor has gone crazy and has shown why for a few years prior, he was considered one of the best in the game. And he's playing like it now. And like I said, really has been since mid-May.
If they had an MVP for players not named Shohei Ohtani, Francisco Lindor would easily be the winner in the National League for that this year.
I'd have to think about that before I immediately sign on. But if your criteria is best players on postseason teams, he's there without question.
Yeah.
Without question.
How's this for a stat, by the way? So the Mets beat the Brewers last night, Rammer. Mets knock out the Brewers in the postseason. The past 11 times that the Brewers have been knocked out of the postseason, the team that knocked them out has gone on to play in the World Series.
That is an interesting trend. So, as theoretically, as a sports bettor, do you bet trends or do you say it's about to change?
I mean, this is, again, last year, Diamondbacks knocked them out. 21, Braves knocked them out. 20, the Dodgers knocked them out. 19, the Nationals. 18, the Dodgers. 11, the Cardinals. 08, the Phillies. 82, the Cardinals. 81, the Yankees.
Governor Walz, you're ducking the question. Answer the question. Do you bet the trend or do you bet it's due to change?
Am I betting? So I'm betting on them to beat the Phillies. That's what you're asking. Or am I betting?
To get to the World Series based on the
absolutely. I'm throwing a little bit on there. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Absolutely.
Good.
Yes.
I'm not a bettor, so I'm trying to get inside a bettor's mind.
Yeah, I'll go find out after we're done what those odds are for that. That series, by the way, Mets have not named a starting pitcher for tomorrow. Phillies are going to go with Zach Wheeler on the mound. They are set up real nice for the postseason, but Phillies have not announced who their Game 2 starter is going to be yet. All we know is Zach Wheeler in Game 1. They have not announced what they're doing in Game 2. As of now, Mets have not announced their Game 1 starter yet.
Yeah. Not as unusual these days as it was even a few years ago. But with the expanded playoffs, a few days off, who did you have to use getting to postseason? So you're juggling around almost every day. And so it's not as unusual as it used to be.
The next series that starts tomorrow, a 5:38 start time. Kansas City Royals at New York Yankees. I have been really enjoying seeing all of the old footage from the 80s of the rivalry that these two franchises once had with each other. The just plowing through guys on the bases and just running them right over the way baseball was played in the 80s. To see those highlights and know what's allowed in the game today, man, that'd be fun to see happen at any point in a baseball game these days.
First playoff series I ever went to was the Yankees at Royal Stadium in 70. I want to say 77. It's a long time ago, and it was electric, absolutely electric. And I went there as a Yankees fan.
Ooh.
And so the Yankees were so much fun in those days. It was high electric feel in the stands. That was a young ball, a young franchise. They just came into existence in 1969, and Whitey Herzog got them going, and it was really, really fun. And the Yankees had their number every year, and to the point that they fired Whitey, and then he came to St. Louis. Everybody knows the story.
Bobby Witt Jr. is going to be on display here in this series. All eyes on him and Aaron Judge. Bobby Witt earlier today talking about how he grew up a huge Derek Jeter fan, even has a Derek Jeter jersey, he said, still hanging in his bedroom at his parents' house.
Mm-hmm.
Still hanging up there. And he gets to go to Yankee Stadium for his first ALDS.
That'll be fun. Yeah, Witt. We were talking about Lindor. Well, Witt is the guy. I think some people would maybe even vote for him over Aaron Judge. He is, and when a guy is as hyped as he is coming out of the minor leagues, I'm a little skeptical. I think he surpassed the hype.
Yeah, and I would say the fact that Aaron Judge didn't hit to get to 60 home runs, I feel like that's a magic number that would have clinched him the MVP, and that kind of leaves it open for Bobby Witt Jr. to maybe take that this year. Kind of being the young up and coming guy, I feel like that could be his opening of getting in there and winning that award here in a few weeks.
I would never vote that way, but I'm not going to try and defend all the other voters. We know many of them, and I'll just leave it at that.
No word yet on Anthony Rizzo's status for the postseason. I know during the Yankees workout the other day, still had a brace on his hand, walking around the batting cages. So does not look good for the ALDS for Anthony Rizzo.
If you're a Yankees fan and, doing the whistling past the graveyard thing, well, Rizzo wasn't hitting anyway. Yeah, but still having that kind of leader in the lineup is important. So they're just going to have to do what they've done all year. They really haven't had him all year, basically.
Yeah. So that's we will see when those rosters are announced. Opening matchup for that, Michael Wacha gets the ball in game 1 for the Royals, going up against Garrett Cole for the Yankees. Yeah, that'll be a fun one in game 1 there in the Bronx. Also, hey, we have game 2 already set too. Cole Reagans against Carlos Rodon in that series. So both managers, they're set, they're ready to go with their rosters and their rotations for this series.
Yeah, and I really I'm interested to see where they're going to hit Jazz Chisholm in their order. He's bounced around a little bit, so I assume he will continue to do that. I kind of like him leading off there, but then you got he and Rizzo back to back. They probably don't love that. I think they're both good enough that it doesn't matter to me, but maybe he'll hit cleanup sometimes, often behind Stanton. It'll be fun to watch.
And finally, back over in the National League, Padres and Dodgers. The rivalry continues. 7:38 start time out there in Los Angeles for this NLDS series. It's Dylan Cease against Yoshi Yamamoto in game 1 for Padres and Dodgers. That's going to be a really fun series.
As good as King was the other night, this is going to be fun watching the offenses.
Yeah.
And I think the top of the Dodgers order is slightly better than the terrific top of the Padres order, but is the difference like this? So, who's going to hit down the line? I think these are the most complete batting orders in all the playoffs, and it's going to be really, really interesting. You compare your two leadoff guys, Ohtani versus Arias. Well, take Ohtani every time, but the Padres have more power down the order. I think if everybody's healthy for both teams, the Dodgers lineup is a little better. Can Muncy get back to being the best he can be? Can Will Smith get back to being the best he can be? So I think those are a couple of key guys to see if they can contribute and make that Dodgers lineup as formidable, top to bottom, as they possibly can be.
Game 2 in that series, Yu Darvish against Jack Flaherty. That game on Sunday, with those two going at it. No word yet, and the big thing for the Padres might be any word on Joe Musgrove and what his availability and how effective he might be if he's able to pitch in game 4. Because I would imagine Michael King goes in game 3 for the Padres. That game not until Tuesday. He'll be fully rested then.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so we'll see what the deal is on Joe Musgrove. Of course, you'll see news trickle in and out about the rosters, but the rosters aren't due until tomorrow. So still a few decisions here and there that need to be made. Speaking of injuries in the playoffs, Rammer, this is brutal for any GM or president of baseball operations to say. I don't know if you saw this. But Alex and Thampos, whatever the name of the guy with the Braves, went on the radio today saying that Chris Sale threw a bullpen yesterday and looked really good. Why would you say that? Why would you tell your fans that a day after you just got eliminated from the postseason and he wasn't able to pitch in any of those games for you?
Why was he doing a bullpen?
That's torture.
Why was he doing a bullpen? Go home. It's over. It's like Ferris Bueller. You're still here? It's over. Go home. None of that makes sense at all.
No, that's just a brutal thing for Braves fans to probably hear with that. All right, so you got 4 games tomorrow, 2 games on Sunday. A fun weekend of baseball is coming your way in the AL and the NLDS. Until then, we will talk to you sometime early next week. And once again, be brought to you by Munganess St. Louis Acura and Rammer Royal Banks.
Royal Banks of Missouri, where better service means better banking. Member FDIC, an equal opportunity lender.
He's Bob Ramsey. I'm Joe Roderick. Talk to you next week right here, Daily Cards Live.
Munganess St. Louis Acura has the all-electric Acura ZDX. The ZDX can go up to 313 miles on a single charge, and the DC fast charging lets the ZDX gain up to 80 miles in just 10 minutes. When you lease an Acura ZDX, you can save up to $7,500 with a federal EV lease credit. Or you can buy the new ZDX and get 0.9% for up to 72 months. Come on in to Munganess St. Louis Acura and take a look at the new ZDX for yourself.